I think when we talked a little bit back and forth on Twitter about what to talk about, I want to say that obviously you already have in mind the projects that you want to contribute for Hacktoberfest, and I think that you have 2 repos that you have designated for that, if I'm not mistaken, which is very smart. Do that so that you can kind of focus the attention of the eager contributors. So there was a couple of things that I was going to dig into more in depth here, like what version control is, and I can do kind of like glossy overview of those, but then I think it'll be cooler to use the time to show some of the tools that you can use during Hacktoberfest and beyond, and maybe some things that might be new, whether they're new to you or not. There might be something there that you can gain in the way that you're organizing. You know, there's maintaining all of these things together is definitely a humongous labor of love. So I think hopefully some of these tools can kind of help out with some of that. So again, hello, I'm Andrea. I am a PM at GitHub. I am right now part of the DevRel team, but focus on product, and the product I'm focused on is security. So I'm doing a lot more into like the research and talking about vulnerabilities and helping folks kind of just get set up in a way that is not so taxing, that they don't get 1,000 notifications every time that something goes wrong, like it usually happens. So that's me, but let's get to talking about, you know, a little bit about version control. Hopefully, if nothing, I know this is probably all info for all of you here, but if nothing else, maybe you can reuse the content and show some folks later. So quick history of version control. Back in the day, way back in the day, and some of us might have been there when you had to like physically take your files in some shape or form and pass it to the developer next to you and get them to make the changes, and then it came back. And then, I mean, the life as we know it, and I'm gonna sound just like my skip level who says you kids don't know how good you have it, and it's true. Because right now collaboration is just so much more user friendly than it's ever been, and all of that has been solidified on the basis of Git. Of course, what makes Git amazing, that core makeup of Git, the fact that it's written in Shell and C and Perl, and you can find the source code on GitHub as well. As we all know, it is a distributed version control software. So what does that mean? That means that it's going to allow you for collaboration. It's going to allow you to save changes over time without overwriting previous versions. So I like to think of Git as sort of you're an archaeologist and you have this dig and you're able to collect your pieces, and it keeps track of absolutely everything. So even if you move a tiny bone from one place to the other, there will be a hash, there will be a record of that action. So it's super important when you're working, whether you're a team of one, even in your own development, because sometimes as much as we like to think that we'll remember everything, you might even lose track of what your thought process was when you were making a change. And this is where version control and using Git and GitHub just becomes so important. I read a tweet actually today, somebody that said that trying to read code that was submitted before you went on vacation was like a form of torture or something. And it's so true, because you know, you might be in a completely flow and have reasons, trademark, why you're taking and making certain decisions. And so Git kind of helps you keep that history. So you can work distributively with every developer. Everyone can work on the same Git repository when you have a copy of it, obviously, and you're gonna copy the entire thing, every branch, every file. So if you're used to a centralized version system where you physically are taking your floppy disk or whatever to the developer next to you, Git is gonna come as a very welcome development. So if you use version control before, you should remember just about Git that branches are cheap, and we encourage you to, you know, you can have as many of them as you want. That the way that Git stores changes is going to be on SHA hashes, and that works by using an algorithm of compression and compresses text files. And this is the reason why also Git is really great for version control software, for software programming, but not so great for binary files like images or videos, although there has actually been a lot of improvements in that space when GitHub was born, and now it is a little bit, there are ways that we can handle that type of information better using Git. The repositories on Git can be connected. So if you work on one locally in your own machine, if you're someone who has to travel while you're coding, you can do it up in the air. And then when you're ready to push, you're ready. It's designed to handle everything for very little projects. Again, those projects that are project of one or projects of hundreds. And it does so with such just poetic beauty, speed and efficiency. So keep in mind that branches are lightweight and cheap. My accent is coming through very strong today. And keep in mind that the concept of branchings is very, very essential in an essential concept of Git. So when you create a branch in Git, you're actually just creating a pointer. So it's not really like you're adding a copy or making a copy. It's more like you're just creating a pointer where you're telling your version that you're looking at to take a look at that very specific point in time and find that last commit in that line of work. And so Git is going to keep the commits for every single branch separate until you explicitly tell it to merge it. That's another thing that's the beauty of Git, that is very explicit. So when you're making changes, you have to tell it, you have to use the Git commands in order to tell it, yes, I'm ready for you to now acknowledge this as part of that specific point in time. So amazing that you can work locally, that you can push when you're ready. Now there are so many fun tools and things that you can do, especially in GitHub. But again, I'm not going to promote GitHub 100%. I want you to use a tool that works for you. But that is sort of the basis for Git. So there was this amazing tool. It was great. It was created. We were so happy that it existed. And then enter GitHub. And I mean, there are several origin stories as to why GitHub became the home for open source. I think it was definitely, it was developers that were looking for a way to collaborate in a more user-friendly, comprehensive way. And it has evolved into being a tool that's sort of the complete package for developer operations. I mean, you can do literally everything now without having to leave GitHub. It's really exciting to take a look at things like GitHub Actions and the CI/CD. Now, GitHub Actions is the #1 CI/CD tool used in GitHub. We have cool things coming up like Code Spaces, Copilot, and so many advancements in the way that secure code is being written and empowering developers to make those decisions early on so that you can take ownership of that security lifecycle of your code. So a lot of reasons to be in GitHub. Again, I want you to use whatever version control makes you happy. So you don't have to use GitHub, but I think that you'll find that there is just the simplicity of collaboration makes it easy for folks to share. And of course, the home for open source. I find it personally fascinating, and I got started because of that simplicity of use and being able to collaborate with people. I mean, we're here on this call, and even though we're all in Florida, we're in different places, and we have this common thread that is your mission as an organization, and then having your repositories and GitHub, which are amazing. So, we try and do everything we can to unlock the creativity of developers, to foster that community of developers with tools like discussions. And that's one of my favorite things that I'm going to share in a moment. There's just so many advancements in the way that GitHub has evolved as a platform. So nurturing the community, providing access and providing safe spaces, super important. We take trust and safety very seriously. So beyond the developer productivity and all the great things that you can do with code, then you can also foster your own communities there. So very exciting. The key concepts for GitHub are going to be commits, issues, pull requests, and releases. Commits are everything and anything. So individual code changes, regardless of what it is. Issues can be anything. And I'm sure you've seen this in your own repositories, that it can be a bug report, it can be a feature request. The pull requests are going to be those commits that contain either the bug fixes or the features. Another one of the super awesome things that we have now is draft pull requests. I use that a lot. Draft pull requests has become sort of like my #1 way to push code, because I feel like it makes a lot less noise, and then I'm able to get eyes on something that if I have any kind of concerns about, it just gives me like a little extra layer of confidence. And then when I click that it's ready for review, I'm 100% sure that is exactly what I wanted to push. So I recommend that you use draft pull requests if you haven't yet, because it's actually a super amazing tool. And then of course, releases, that's going to be the packaged versions of any application. So again, GitHub is the home for open source. I work at GitHub, but I'm here as a community person. So whether you use GitLab or any other platform, just use what works best for you. But know that there is a lot of tools, and a lot of these tools are free for open source projects, free for communities like yours. So it's worth taking a look at those. All right. And okay, let's go ahead, and I think we're gonna just move on to, let me just move into our repo so that we can take a look at things and stuff. Instead of talking about it, maybe we can just look at it. And I have a repo. You can still see my screen, right? I have a repo for Hacktoberfest that I've been using just to kind of show how quickly you can spin up a GitHub pages, which is yet again another layer of opportunity there. Particularly loving that there is a big investment from the Actions folks into pages and making the pages product itself extendable beyond Jekyll. So it's going to be exciting what's coming up on that space there. But as it is right now, when you have a GitHub repository, I don't think I need to talk you through every single one of those important things, but there are a lot of options that you can set up. Importantly, and worth noting, definitely having that security overview and enabling those dependable alerts, because that way you can make sure that all the vulnerabilities and the packages that you're using, the dependencies, I think it's something like 80% of the security issues that you have are not even done by malicious actors, but simply by the fact that things get outdated. We don't necessarily do these things manually. So it's great that now we have a tool that can do those things for us, automatically create those alerts and set up PR up. So all you have to do is say, yes, this is it, and it will keep your dependencies up to date. So really excited. Make sure that you keep your security or review, that you sign up for code scanning alerts. Also super important. So what it's going to do for you is going to save you money. I don't know if some of you might have seen Last Universe, a colleague of mine, Brian, did a talk about how he made it a secret. That was his key for AWS and got a $30,000 bill from Amazon. And so exciting news. Amazon was actually super kind and just kind of scraped that bill. But a lot of times, and especially if you are working on a deadline, there are things that just 2 hours human and you never know. So having that code scanning alerts and having those repositories constantly being scanned to make sure that whatever criteria you've given it for a secret is not present, that's huge. So keep that in mind. Then also discussions. I love discussions because it's just, I look at it like a Discord inside your repository. And I love discussions for maintainers and for folks that have projects like this and that use Meetup and that have opportunities to talk to others and grow and foster community. Because there's a lot of things that don't necessarily fit in that box of what an issue should be. And so it helps keep the noise to a minimum and then encourage the level of collaboration. And there's a lot more extensibility to discussions now. I think the API was some preview. It might have been out of preview now. Next week during the universe, there's going to be some other awesome announcements about improvements to discussions. So definitely encourage everyone, if you haven't enabled discussions in your repo, enabling it is super simple. I haven't looked at your repo. I need to take a look. What is if you don't mind dropping me the repo on the chat, we can take a look at it together. But yeah, that'd be great. But I don't know if you have discussions enabled or not, but enabling it is as simple as just checking this mark, and it's going to bring up a template for you. Another amazing feature, issue templates, so that you can ask people to do things in a certain way and you can teach them how to come and contribute to your repositories. All right, let me click on that and we'll just look at your repo. That'd be funner.
I guess we did. That must have been Derek who enabled it.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Did you, Derek? Because I don't remember enabling that.
What's that?
Enabling discussions?
Oh, I don't remember enabling that, or is
maybe. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it looks like, oh, let's see, for what repo would it be?
That one.
For the website. Yeah, so
it's weird because I see it on mine.
You do, maybe you have it restricted. And so since I am not a maintainer, and there are different layers of permissions that you can assign. So since I'm not a maintainer or have write access, then maybe that prevents me from being able to see your discussions, and you can layer that. But if you want to use it for collaboration, you definitely want to extend that a little bit to folks. Obviously, not more work, like if you don't have the bandwidth to be moderating, but it might save you a lot of just time and headache. Like, I don't know if this is an actual, oh no, this is an actual issue. But you know, sometimes you do come across repositories where you start seeing just a lot of those conversations and not a lot of them actually fit into the feature request or bug or any kind of report that will contribute, like that would make a good issue. You know, specifically now when you're talking about Hacktoberfest, it would be cool to see a discussion going on the collaborations and like the type of contributions that you're looking for Hacktoberfest. So yeah, definitely take a look at it, take a look at template, the way that it works, and just go for it. I mean, I really don't see any downsides. I think that it's really cool to be able to keep track of this. And you as the administrator, maintainers of your repository, you have complete control. That's why right now I can't see it. You have control about what, who, when can be posted. So it's a cool space. It's a cool feature. I'm all in on discussions. I think it's good. For historical tracking. Yeah, for historical tracking, you know, a lot of times I'm super good at Googling things, and then I'll remember never the place where I saw it. And so we're kind of losing that transfer of information and like that transfer of knowledge as people move on for projects, unless it's in the code and very well documented and you're like an amazing committer and your commit comments are like just stellar, which mine are absolutely not. You lose a lot of that context. So when you're making big decisions, this is a good place for you to have those discussions, and then they live there forever. And you can control who views them too. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so that's sort of like the bare bones essence of what the GitHub experience is like. Obviously, there are many, many layers and a ton of other things that you can do. But for the purposes of today, I lost my presentation. For the purposes of today, I think that that's probably gonna be sufficient. So let me bring up the slides one more time because I wanna show you, or actually, I don't need the slides to show you. I wanted to show you discussions, which we've taken a look at, enabling discussions, again, just settings, and scroll down, and then you can template it if you want to. And then I don't know if you have seen the buzz about code spaces and the way that you can collaborate there. I mean, basically it's an editor. If you use VS Code, it's gonna spin up an editor of that. And then with code spaces, obviously you have the ability to collaborate with others live, which is really cool. I do a lot in code spaces. We're using it a lot as an onboarding tool internally, which is great. Having that environment set and having everything that you like about VS Code and the power of that tool right there, no matter where you are, is great. But of course, code spaces is not free. So we are investing on something that is, I guess, is being called the .dev experience. And you might have seen a tweet. There was a tweet going around about like if you hit the dot, if you're inside one of your repos, what happens? And what happens is basically just going to spin up that web editor for you. You can sync it where it will remember your settings from Visual Studio, and it will sync them so that if you're working on this locally, you don't have to go back and reset everything. So it will remember, which is really cool. And I love it that I'm a visual person for some things. So I do love the ability to be able to see the data structure, like the code structure of, this is a very simple repo. All it has is an index file for that Jekyll page to load. But another thing that I really love about Codespaces is that, let's say you're making changes into markdown files. If you're contributing to an open source project, or even your project yourself, and your contribution is gonna be an addition, maybe you're gonna add yourself as one of the maintainers. Maybe you're going to make a change. There was a typo on the main page. One of your images wasn't rendering, by the way, when we were looking at that. So maybe that's something that you wanna do. Spin it up here on VS Code. You can actually preview it, which is really cool. I love that. because without having to go outside of your editor, you're able to just go ahead and preview that markdown right there, so that you can make sure that you're following the convention of whatever you have set for contributions. So really like that. I'm a big shit script fan, so you have to please ignore my Moira Royce GIFs everywhere. So I personally really like this experience. Obviously, there are going to be more layers added to it when it comes to collaboration, but right now, as it is, if you want to utilize this for any project, so like right now, I could come into your repository and to the website issues, and even though, well, for me, it's going to be a little bit different because I have a different set of permissions, but if you have a contributor who wants to come in, and maybe someone that you want to work with them together, or you want them to have that ease of entry where using that super quickly spun up text editor is going to help them get to it. They can do it right there from your repository. All they have to do is, like, you will have to fork the project just like you would, and then you can go right into using that same little period and it will spin it out for you. So cool tool, easy tool. This is the image I was talking about. That is that, because we don't handle binary files very well. But yeah, this is another one of those favorite things, I guess you can call them, that I think are making it easier for people to go ahead and collaborate. And then finally, I have one more thing I wanted to share. And I forgot what it is. So let me just go back to my slides real quick. Are there any questions so far while I go back to the presentation?
I do. The one thing that I've noticed is, like, can you commit changes from here? Because I think I tried before and I couldn't find it how.
Yeah, so if you are someone who has write access, then yes, absolutely. If you don't have write access, like what will happen to me, right? For example, I don't have write access to your repository. So in order for me to, I will have to fork the repository, make my changes, and then do a pull request as you would normally. So you can do it. If you would like to.
So like on yours, for example, can you just like commit your changes and stuff? Because I was trying to look for the terminal and I couldn't find it, or try to change something.
Oh yeah, so let me see if I can, and that's another cool thing that you can do, that you can, I have so many screens open, I apologize. That is not letting me see, like my terminal will be here in the bottom somewhere. Let me just see if I can make this nice. No, that's not gonna, I'm gonna toggle the view there. But if you want to, I just posted the link to that repo. I think, do I have it public right now? I'm not sure. I want to say I do.
It's showing like a 404 for me.
Okay, yeah, so because I don't have it as public. Let me just change that real quick, because I want you to commit it to, I want you to try and make the change, or I'll make a change here so we can see how it works together. Yeah, let me just change the visibility of that into public, and I apologize, I should have done that before we got started. But we'll go ahead and you should be able to see it right. This will be much faster if I didn't have 50,000 tabs open. Okay. And all right, give me just a second, of course, because I have to, we use a UV key for everything. So it has to confirm the access and do all these things. Okay, so if you go ahead and refresh, you should be able to see it now. And I definitely welcome everyone to try and push that dot and watch the editor spin up. But I can show you. Yeah, perfect. Awesome. But I can show you here, like, let's say that I make a change, and right now there's obviously like just some extra spaces. I mean, automatically you can start seeing how it's gonna give me a notice that there is a pending change, even though all I did was just take out some white space, right? And so let's say I can type my commit message as remove white space, which now that's something that you can actually do. And I want to commit it directly. So because I have push access into this repo, it'll allow me to commit directly into it, but you should still be able to open a PR and be able to, I should be able to see it and then go from there. So let me just go back here. That's the README. Let's go to the index. I mean, it should have automatically build it, and it does take a little bit of time for it to go back. Oh, here we are. See, sometimes it's like whenever I can make it smaller, you can see the terminal that you can open it. Yeah. So for you to be able to do it, like, I guess from here, I will have to open it, clone the repo and open it locally, or create a code space, because I am working on the .dev experience. So it's local, not cloud-based, if that makes sense. So we couldn't necessarily collaborate here. But if you fork it, then you'll be able to make the changes and push them from your terminal, or use the UI to push them if you prefer, and submit a PR just like you would.
Nice.
And you can, so I'm just gonna go ahead and load it up here so that we can just quickly take a look at how I made the change, and you can see how it automatically went ahead and triggered that build for the pages again. Just removing that white space is not gonna show much of a change because it was really just white space, but it would allow you to do that really quickly. So this is one of the, like, I would say, underutilized tools that we can have, because you can quickly just have a GitHub page for anything that you want. And I appreciate being able to see the deployment status here. So yeah, I think
That's very cool.
is that.
Thank you.
No, thank you. And then, if you haven't used the GitHub CLI yet, definitely I encourage you to give it a go. If you're someone who prefers to work on the terminal, it just makes it so much easier. And I feel like the CLI team is constantly improving how extensive the commands and everything that you can do directly from the terminal, which is great. Recently, there was added support for actions so that you can view your workflows. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff that you can do. And to install the GitHub CLI is very easy. All you have to do, you can use Brew, a homebrew. Shout out to the maintainers of the Brew project. That's just a quick snippet. If you can see my screen, just a quick snippet of the terminal command. Of course, another amazing thing about the GitHub CLI project is that the CLI-CLI repo lives on GitHub, obviously, and it's also open source. So you can make it your own. You can contribute to that project itself. Now you can do all of these things. Before, when it first came out, there was a handful of capabilities, but the capabilities are definitely moving. There's a ton more that you can do, and there's added support for GitHub Actions now. You can actually review, run, view, list the workflows. And as we move into being able to reuse workflows and rerun specific workflows, being able to do all those things from the CLI is gonna be, I think, a game changer. So definitely encourage you to check those out. I think we talked about discussions already, about setting it up. We talk about that dev, and that's it. And I'm sorry, I went way over time that I was gonna talk. I just kind of ramble a little bit. I'm glad it was just us so that I could answer questions right away. But I know that you have plans for the team to actually get some PRs going. So I will stop my rambling. But definitely I encourage everyone to go ahead and poke about in CLI, see how you like it. That team is so great. That's one of my most favorite PMs. The PM for that team is just, he's a community person. He gets it, super keen on listening to feedback and incorporating those changes. And we appreciate the feedback. Sometimes, like, we'll be looking at the same thing for so long that we miss the most obvious things. And this is where all of you can actually help us make the product so much better. So that's exciting. And then, the community tools and things that you can do as a project, like enabling discussions, those are just going to be superb ways for you to just continue to grow and kind of get your community even bigger and take all over Florida beyond the South Florida. So yeah, it's been so nice to meet everybody. And I don't know if there are any other questions, or I should just leave you to work, get cracking on planting those trees or getting the t-shirts. I'm not sure which one you're going for. Maybe one of each.
Yeah, sounds great. I appreciate your time and showing us things. I just downloaded the GitHub CLI, so I've been seeing that around.
Yay!
Yeah, thanks.
Yay!
I've been seeing posts about it, but yeah, thanks for the inspo. So we'll see what that's about. I work in my day job. I work with GitLab mostly, but been in a GitHub a lot in other jobs and stuff. So it's cool. Anyone have any questions for Andrea? I know there's not many of us tonight, so.
That's all right. And you know what? I'm not gonna disappear. You can summon me. Just say swag 3 times and I'll show up. But no, really. I'm online. I'm on Twitter. I'm responsive on Twitter the most. And we're starting to do a lot in the Twitter space. So we have an action space that's coming up at 8 o'clock our time. And I have Brian Sung joining us. He's gonna be one of the presenters for GitHub Universe next week. If you haven't already, sign up for Universe, it's free. They open up slots for some of the virtual sessions, interactive sessions are really good. Like you're gonna walk out with like actionable things that you can do to improve your workflows or like new information. And then be sure to tune in next week, because I know this comment about what kind of sandwich is not making, doesn't make any sense if you didn't watch it last year, but last year he was making this humongous sandwich. That was part of the keynote. So there'll be more excitement and more announcements. And then of course, we're always keen to hear your feedback. So feel free to ping me. If I don't know the answer, I'm happy to connect you with someone who does. And yeah, I can't wait till we can see each other in person.
Andrea, thank you so much. Really, thank you for coming. And believe me, I take your word for having you in person as a speaker. We would love that.
Totally. And you know what? There is more of us. One of my most favorite humans, Beer of EDU, is in Winter Park, Florida. Derek, he gives your beer a run for his money. Check him out tomorrow. So we host a series called 30 Minutes to Merge, where we do is like a brown bag lunch. Tomorrow we have John run. He ran a Ruby bootcamp for free because he's just an awesome human. And he's gonna be talking about basics of programming and meta programming on Ruby tomorrow. Ooh. And the host is Beer. You have to come. Bring your beer to our event. All right. Because he's usually, I'm like, yeah, obviously that glorious Beer catching all the bugs on the code. I love it. All right. Well, I'll leave you folks be and do your work, but it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thanks to you for everything. Thank you, Andrea.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you. Andrea. Take care.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.
All right, team.
Well, that was nice. Should I stop the recording?
Yeah.
No? Okay, I leave it.
I think we should stop the recording.
Okay.